All right, today we are diving deep into the story of Lindsay Lohan. It's a story that's incredible, seriously turbulent, and in the end, pretty inspiring. For what decades now, her name has meant two things: massive talent and very public trouble. We're going to trace her whole journey from the absolute peak of Hollywood fame down to the lowest of lows and then all the way back again. So let's get into it.
You know, this quote really just nails it, doesn't it? It perfectly captures the two completely opposite ends of Lindsay Lohan's life in the spotlight. She was the child star everyone adored, and then she became the cautionary tale everyone couldn't stop watching. So how does one person become both of those things? Well, that's the big question we're here to unpack.
So here's how we're going to break it all down. We're looking at 5 key chapters. We'll start with her brilliant beginnings, then her time as a huge Disney star. After that, the chaotic fall from grace and what I'm calling the lost years. And finally, we'll get to the comeback that's completely redefining her life right now. Okay, let's start at the very beginning, because way before all the headlines and the drama, Lindsay Lohan was just a natural, a born star. But that amazing talent was shaped in a family life that was, to put it mildly, really complicated and often pretty toxic.
I mean, just look at this timeline for a second. It is wild. By age three, when most of us are just figuring out sentences, she was already a signed Ford model. Through her childhood, she was in over 60 commercials. We're talking big brands like Pizza Hut. She wasn't just going to school, she was going to work. And it all leads up to age 11, when she beat out 1,500 other kids to get the lead roles in Disney's The Parent Trap.
But here's the thing. While her career was exploding, her life at home was just incredibly tough. Her parents had a super volatile relationship, and her father's behavior was often violent. Get this, when she was only 4 years old, her dad went to prison for stock fraud. That was just the first of many, many legal problems that would follow the family, and eventually follow her right into the headlines. It really set this pattern of chaos early on. But even with all that turmoil at home, her talent was just undeniable. The Parent Trap was a huge success. We're talking $92 million at the box office worldwide. Everyone, critics, audiences, they were blown away by how she played 2 different characters so perfectly. She even won a Young Artist Award. And that was the moment Disney knew they had a true star on their hands. So after The Parent Trap hit it big, Disney moved fast. They signed her to a 3-picture deal. And this next phase, well, it launched her into the stratosphere. She became one of the biggest teen idols of the early 2000s, period. And man, the hits just kept coming, one right after another. In 2003, you had Freaky Friday, which was a total phenomenon. A year later, Confessions of a Teenage Drama Queen, and then Mean Girls. In just a year and a half, she went from a promising actress to an absolute, undisputed A-list superstar. I mean, the numbers on this chart really tell the story, don't they? Freaky Friday raked in a massive $160 million, and Mean Girls pulled in $130 million and became this cultural landmark. People are still quoting it today. So at just 18 years old, Lindsay Lohan was at the absolute top of her game. You'd see magazine covers just like this everywhere. And notice, it wasn't really a question. It was more like a statement of fact. She was America's sweetheart. Talented, charming, everyone loved her. But as she turned 18, a new chapter was about to begin, and in this one, the pressure of fame was going to become almost impossible to handle. And here we are at the turning point, part 3, the fall into chaos. At 18, Lindsay moved to LA, looking for some independence. But instead of freedom, what she found was herself at the dead center of a media storm that would just completely derail her career and her life. Now, to really get what happened next, we have to talk about the paparazzi. But this wasn't just any old time. This was the mid-2000s, the absolute golden age of tabloid blogs and gossip magazines. The public could not get enough of unflattering celebrity photos. A normal picture might sell for $1,000, but a picture of a star having a breakdown, that could go for tens of thousands. So they were literally paid to provoke a bad reaction, and Lindsay Lohan became their #1 target. And all these pressures just started to build on each other. Instead of getting a house, she lived in these fancy hotels, spending over $1 million a year just to have people around her. The paparazzi were relentless. They'd cause car accidents, scream at her, anything to get a reaction. She ended up in the hospital for exhaustion. But then the stories about all-night partying started to leak, and her reputation on set began to totally fall apart. And then this happened. This was a total bombshell. A direct quote from a leaked letter from the CEO of a production company for her movie, Georgia Rule. This wasn't some private warning, it was a public shaming. It basically confirmed every rumor out there and cemented her new reputation in Hollywood as unreliable. All the goodwill she had built up, it was just gone. So what came next can really only be called her lost years. Her life became this endless cycle of arrests, rehab, court dates, all playing out in the public eye. Her career wasn't the story anymore, her scandals were.
The way things escalated in 2007 was just dizzying. In May, a DUI arrest and a 30-day stay in rehab. Just 2 months later, another DUI and drug possession arrest, which led to another 45 days in rehab. She was getting sentenced to jail time, community service, probation, but the downward spiral just kept on repeating itself.
And the consequences were getting really severe. For stealing a necklace that was worth $2,500, she was facing a $70,000 fine and 120 days in jail. And she kept having to pay these huge amounts in bail just to stay out of a cell. She was completely trapped in a system that was draining her, both financially and personally. You know, she did try to get her career back on track during this time. She played Elizabeth Taylor in a TV movie, but the critics hated it. Then there was a docu-series with Oprah that was supposed to show her recovery, but people thought it just seemed self-serving. It felt like every single time she tried to fix her story, it only made things worse. So after years and years of struggling, it really looked like her story was over. But then, Lindsay Lohan made a move that absolutely nobody saw coming. And it was a move that would finally let her break that cycle and start to rebuild her life from the ground up. This right here was the game changer. She moved to Dubai. Now, why Dubai? Well, it's pretty simple, actually. That aggressive, intrusive paparazzi culture that tormented her for a decade, it's illegal there. So, for the first time since she was a teenager, she could just live a normal life, away from the cameras. She could focus on herself without worrying that her every move was being sold to the highest bidder. And the transformation since then has just been incredible. I mean, this slide really shows the stark contrast. The stories about her being unprofessional, they've been replaced with praise from her colleagues. The whole narrative about addiction and partying has been replaced by her new reality as a wife and a mother. And those terrible reviews have given way to a real comeback with Netflix and even a return to Disney. This new chapter is just full of milestones. She signed a big multi-picture deal with Netflix, which basically signaled that the industry was ready to invest in her again. She got married, and in 2023, she had her first child, a son. And in what feels like a truly perfect full-circle moment, she's now set to star in a sequel to Freaky Friday, the movie that made her a superstar almost 20 years ago. And all of this brings us to one last question. Lindsay Lohan's journey really forces you to think about fame, about forgiveness, and about what recovery looks like. Was she a victim of a predatory industry, or was she responsible for her own downfall? And maybe the most important question of all is, does her successful return prove that in Hollywood, a true second act is actually possible? It's a powerful story of resilience, and it's one that's still being written.